The spotlight of hip-hop culture has always been filled with big moments, unforgettable music, and dramatic personal revelations. But few stories grip the public as deeply as when the lives of artists collide with family secrets and raw emotional truth. For years, Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin have been one of the most talked about couples in the entertainment world. Their love story has been tested by fame, loyalty, and the constant watch of the cameras. But now, a shocking twist has left both fans and critics stunned. The sudden reveal of a newborn baby's DNA test report that has turned their private world upside down. This isn't just a story about celebrity headlines, it's about betrayal, truth, and the fragile threads that hold relationships together. In a moment where the truth cannot be hidden, Jim Jones steps forward to address rumors that have spiraled across social media, revealing the results of a DNA test tied to a child no one expected. On the other side of the story stands Chrissy Lampkin, a woman who has fought for her place by Jim's side, breaking down as emotions overwhelm her in the face of revelations she never thought she'd confront. What does this DNA test really mean for their future? How will Chrissy handle the pressure of betrayal, public judgment, and her own heartbreak? And most importantly, how will Jim Jones navigate the line between love, loyalty, and responsibility? This is more than gossip, it's a raw look into the human cost of fame. Stay with us as we break down every detail of this powerful, heartbreaking story that has the world talking. The story begins not in the glare of the cameras, but in the quiet corners of whispers that refuse to fade. For months, speculation had circled Jim Jones, the rapper, entrepreneur, and longtime partner of Chrissy Lampkin. Their relationship had weathered years of public attention, from the highs of television fame on Love and Hip Hop to the lows of personal struggles exposed in front of millions. Through it all, Chrissy had stood by his side, her loyalty unwavering. But behind the smiles and appearances, a shadow had been growing, one that neither of them could avoid forever. The first sparks of the rumor surfaced online, on gossip blogs and Instagram pages dedicated to celebrity news. Anonymous sources claimed that Jim might have fathered a child outside his relationship. At first, fans dismissed it as another baseless attempt to stir drama. Jim Jones was known for his fiery attitude and devotion to Chrissy, so the idea of betrayal didn't sit easily with those who admired their bond. But as weeks turned into months, the whispers grew louder. Photos of a baby circulated alongside claims that the child bore a striking resemblance to Jim. The speculation was no longer something they could ignore behind closed doors. Chrissy Lampkin was wrestling with emotions that no partner wants to face. She had spent years defending her relationship against critics who said she deserved better, or that Jim would never settle down in the way she hoped. Now, with rumors of a baby surfacing, her heart carried a weight heavier than ever. Friends close to her described her as torn, caught between wanting to trust the man she loved and fearing the truth that might shatter her. Jim, for his part, remained silent for as long as he could. Silence, however, has a way of feeding speculation. Each day that he avoided addressing the issue, the public grew hungrier for answers. Social media boiled over with debates, some demanding that Chrissy walk away, others urging Jim to man up and tell the truth. The pressure mounted until finally, Jim could no longer avoid the storm. When he chose to speak, he did so with a seriousness that shocked even his critics. Seated in front of cameras, his tone stripped of bravado, he revealed that a DNA test had been conducted. "I'm not here to play games with people's lives," he began, his voice low but firm. "I know what's being said, I know what's been floating around. And I owe it to my family, to my fans, and most importantly, to Chrissy, to tell the truth." The tension in the room was palpable. What he held in his hands was not just paperette, was the weight of his future. The DNA test report confirmed what many feared. The newborn child was indeed his. Jim's words were simple but cut deep. The results don't lie. "This is my child." For Chrissy, those words landed like daggers. She had prepared herself for the possibility, but hearing it spoken aloud was a pain she could not hide. Cameras caught the moment tears welled in her eyes as her body shook. Years of trust, years of loyalty. Years of believing they could survive anything now tested in a way she had never imagined. The room fell silent except for her sobs. And yet Chrissy's pain wasn't only about betrayal. Those who know her. Bess said she cried not just for herself, but for the life she had built around Jim. For the image of a future she had guarded so fiercely. And for the countless times she had defended their love against the world. To have that foundation cracked by the reality of another child felt like the cruelest of blows. Jim, though visibly shaken, didn't run from responsibility. "This is my child," he repeated, almost as if trying to convince himself as much. "As anyone else, I won't deny them. I won't hide from what I have to do." His words were resolute, but they carried no victory. Instead, they revealed a man torn between the love of his life and the undeniable duty to a child who bore his blood. The revelation sent shockwaves through their inner circle. Friends were divided. Some urged Chrissy to walk away and never look back, arguing that betrayal this deep was unforgivable. Others insisted that families are complicated, that mistakes can happen, and that the true measure of love is how you survive the storm. Public opinion mirrored that divide. Social media exploded with reactions. Some fans expressed heartbreak for Chrissy, praising her strength in the face of humiliation. Others accused Jim of hypocrisy, questioning how he could claim loyalty while breaking the most sacred of bonds. Memes, debates, and think pieces filled the internet, making the couple's private turmoil a global conversation. But beyond the noise of the outside world, the most important battle was unfolding inside Chrissy's heart. Could she forgive Jim? Could she stand beside him while the world watched? Could she build a life where the existence of another child, a constant reminder of betrayal, would always linger in the background? These questions didn't have easy answers, and in her tearful breakdown, the rawness of those doubts was laid bare for everyone to see. Jim, too, faced his own storm. For years, he had been criticized for dragging his feet when it came to marriage, for keeping Chrissy waiting when she had made it clear what she wanted. Now, with the weight of fathering a child outside their relationship, those criticisms resurfaced louder than ever. His silence, his choices, his revelations all painted a picture of a man struggling to balance fame, love, and responsibility. As part one closes, they're left with a shattered moment, a woman in tears, a man admitting the truth, and a public that refuses to look away. Jim Jones has revealed the DNA test. The child is his. Chrissy Lampkin has broken down under the weight of betrayal. And the question that hangs in the air is whether love can survive the truth, or whether this revelation will mark the end. For one of hip-hop's most enduring couples, the days that followed Jim Jones' revelation were some of the most difficult moments in his and Chrissy Lampkin's long and complicated relationship. The truth was out, the rumors confirmed, and there was no going back to the world they knew before the DNA test report. For Chrissy, the breakdown in court, or rather, in front of the world, wasn't just a release of pain. It was a public unmasking of her deepest fears. She had always stood by Jim, even when others told her she was holding on to a man who would never fully commit. Now, with the weight of betrayal crushing her, Chrissy had to face a reality she had hoped she would never live. The cameras had caught every tear, every crack in her voice, and every look of devastation. But what the cameras couldn't capture was the silence that followed her breakdown. Those closest to her say Chrissy retreated into herself for days, refusing to answer calls, choosing instead to sit alone with her thoughts. She wasn't just grieving a betrayal, she was grieving the years of love she had invested in Jim. She was grieving the idea of the family they might have had, now overshadowed by the existence of another child. Meanwhile, Jim Jones carried his own burden. Though his words had been clear, "This is my child," the responsibility weighed heavily on him. For years, Jim had built his reputation as a tough figure in hip-hop, someone unafraid of confrontation or controversy. But this situation was different. It wasn't about music, money, or fame. It was about the kind of man he would be. When it mattered most, to deny the child was unthinkable. To abandon Chrissy was unbearable. Yet in trying to keep both, he risked losing everything. The news spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the hip-hop community. Industry peers, old friends, and even critics weighed in. Some praised Jim for owning up to his responsibilities, saying that too many men in his position chose denial instead. Others condemned him, calling his actions reckless, selfish, and damaging to the woman who had stood by him through everything. What had once been whispers and gossip blogs was now headline news across mainstream outlets. Chrissy, caught in the center of this media storm, faced questions she never thought she'd have to answer. Would she stay with Jim? Could she forgive him? What did this mean for their future? In interviews she had given years before, Chrissy had often spoken about her desire for marriage, about wanting to solidify her relationship with Jim in a way that the world and she herself could never question. But now, those dreams seemed like fragments of a story that could never be pieced back together. Her breakdown wasn't just about the baby. It was about years of waiting, years of hoping, and years of sacrificing her own pride to stand beside Jim. This new revelation felt like proof that all her loyalty had been repaid with betrayal. And yet those who know her well say Chrissy's love for Jim has always been deeper than most people understand. She wasn't quick to walk away. Even in her most painful moments, there was a part of her that wanted to fight for what they had built together. Jim, for his part, tried to bridge the gap. He spoke about wanting to take care of the child without abandoning Chrissy. "I know what this means. I know what I did," he admitted in one interview. "But I can't turn my back on my family. That means Chrissy and it means this child. I have to figure out how to do right by both." His words revealed the inner conflict of a man who had made mistakes, but wasn't willing to give up on the woman he loved. But love alone doesn't erase pain. The reality of a child outside the relationship was a constant reminder of betrayal. Every time Chrissy looked at Jim, the image of that DNA test loomed in the background. Every time Jim tried to comfort her, the sound of his confession echoed in her mind. Healing wasn't going to be simple, and forgiveness wasn't guaranteed. The public, of course, had its own narrative. Social media became a battlefield of opinions. Hashtags like #PrayForChrissy and #JimJonesDNA trended, with fans taking sides. Some applauded Chrissy's strength, urging her to leave and find happiness without Jim. Others begged her to stay, claiming that love and family are worth fighting for, even through mistakes. Memes, debates, and online arguments painted the couple as both villains and victims, depending on who you asked. But in the middle of the noise, there was a child, a newborn, who hadn't asked for the spotlight, who hadn't asked for the drama. And in the quieter moments, that's what weighed heaviest on Jim. He knew that beyond the headlines, beyond the arguments, was a life he was now responsible for. And in his heart, he understood that his actions had forever changed not just his relationship with Chrissy, but the life of an innocent child who would one day read these very stories. For Chrissy, the decision wasn't immediate. Days turned into weeks as she grappled with her emotions. She leaned on friends, confided in family, and sought strength in solitude. Some days, she felt ready to walk away, to reclaim her life and her dignity. Other days, the thought of leaving Jim, the man she had loved for so long, felt impossible. Her breakdown had been public, but her healing was private. And no one could predict what path she would choose. The couple's home, once a place of laughter and love, became a battlefield of emotions. Arguments erupted, followed by moments of silence so heavy they seemed louder than words. And yet, even in the darkest moments, there were flashes of the bond they had always shared, a hand reaching out, a tear wiped away, a whisper of, "I'm sorry." The question that lingered wasn't just about betrayal, it was about endurance. Could their love survive this? Could Chrissy forgive? Could Jim prove that his commitment was real? Not just to the child, but to the woman who had given him so much of her life? These were questions only time could answer. And as part 2 comes to a close, one thing is certain. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's story is far from over. The DNA test report revealed more than just paternity, revealed the cracks in a love story that had already been tested time and again. Whether those cracks will grow into a permanent divide or become scars that make their bond stronger remains to be seen. What we do know is this: the world is watching, the pressure is mounting. And the next chapter in their story may be the most defining yet. At the heart of this story lies a powerful truth. Fame may bring attention, but it doesn't shield anyone from heartbreak, tough decisions, or the consequences of our actions. Jim Jones' DNA test revelation and Chrissy Lampkin's breakdown remind us that behind every headline is a real human story filled with pain, love, loyalty, and difficult choices. And now, the question isn't just about Jim and Chrissy, it's about us. How do we define love? Is it unconditional? Capable of surviving betrayal and disappointment? Or is there a line that, once crossed, makes forgiveness impossible? Chrissy's tears and Jim's confession force us to confront those very questions in our own lives. As fans, supporters, or even just curious observers, we owe it to ourselves to see beyond the gossip and focus on the lessons hidden within their journey. Family, loyalty, and accountability are not just words, they're choices. Choices that shape our futures and the futures of those we love. So, as this story continues to unfold, we invite you to stay connected, share your thoughts, and be part of this conversation. Do you believe Chrissy should forgive Jim? Should Jim and Chrissy fight for their love despite the circumstances? Or is this the end of their chapter together? Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more deep dives. And remember, every story has more than one side.